let me see, like how your attitude, I guess, over like film is. So when Hollywood decides to cast Wayne Brady as Gravedigger, do you scoff and throw your hands in the air, or are you cool with decisions like that?
Nah. See, especially with film, it has to work. It has to match. The part has to be played by the right person. You can't just throw anybody in certain roles. And as Gravedigger, I'm like, yeah, you got to have somebody else with that look or that class or something. Like somebody like that's definitely not fitting the part for me.
So what's your take on someone like Tarantino, who kind of footholds Bruce Lee into his movies? Like, were you offended by his depiction?
No, I wasn't, and here's why. Because one, that was Tarantino's impression or his telling of a story, right? It was 5 minutes out of a 3-hour movie. Anybody who was offended by that, it's like, so you just blocked out the other 2 hours and 55 minutes of this movie, right? Everyone in Hollywood knows Bruce had a little bit of arrogance with him. I'm not, if that really did happen, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that happened. Or, Bruce might have had a run-in with someone, and it might not have been that exact way, but Bruce wasn't like the nice guy. He had his issues with him too, and he had his arrogance with him, and rightly so. He's Bruce. He was being discriminated against in Hollywood. Yeah, it's, I'm not offended by the Tarantino thing because Tarantino always exaggerates every situation. That's what he does.
Yeah, fair enough. I was surprised that his family couldn't come to that same viewpoint.
Well, the thing about his family, and it's not even his family; it's his daughter.
Yeah. That's who I was thinking specifically.
His daughter. First of all, his daughter is at odds with the original Bruce Lee Foundation people, like people who were legitimate his students, people who were his legit friends, who used to run his organization, who wouldn't run the organization into the ground and wouldn't license his name just on anything. They're all at odds with the daughter because the daughter controls it now. And she sells his license on potato chips, on soft drinks, on cell phones, because she's keeping money circulating, right? On MMA and all this stuff. Like, she's not keeping his legacy in the best interest. She's keeping the money flowing, so I see why she's mad, because if people look at Bruce in a different way, this might stop her money from flowing.
Oh, so when Bruce Lee is in a UFC video game, that decision probably came from her.
That came from her.
Wow.
Exactly. Exactly. She makes the decision. Yeah. So like all soft drinks and everything, like things that Bruce Lee would have never been on, or his foundation would have never licensed his likeness. She's the one making all the decisions now. So, and even that ESPN documentary that came out, there was a lot of things that was left out. Like, people don't talk about, Bruce Lee cheating on his wife. Like, people don't talk about that. People who were around back in the 70s and know these things, from documentaries that came out back then, they got hints of what was going on. But anything you see of Bruce Lee now going forward, it's going to make him seem like he was the best person. He never did anything wrong, which is not true. His life was definitely short, and we never know what his career would have been had he still been alive. He could have went any one of two directions. He could have really been successful doing what he did, or he could have really went, commercial doing something else. So I like, none of this surprises me, and that's why it's hard for me to interview certain people, because certain questions are off the table. And I'm like, well, then what's the point in interviewing you? Like, I want to know the real you. I don't want to know the Hollywood you. I want to know the real you.